Film, television, commercials, new media. You are listening to Producer's Pal, unmasking the business of filmmaking and sharing killer advice from seasoned pros. And now your host, Joshua Brown.
Welcome to Producer's Pal, episode number 25. I'm Joshua Brown. Today on the podcast, Mandy Ward. This episode is sponsored by Indie Film Finance Guide. Learn more at producerspal.com/finance guide. To learn more about this episode, go to producerspal.com/Mandy Ward. Okay, welcome to the podcast, Mandy Ward. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited. You were referred to me by Joe Rubenstein, who I interviewed earlier in the podcast for the Digital Bolex project. So he had some good things to say about you. So I'm pretty excited to have you on the show. Yeah,
thank you. Joe and I go way back. We went to college together, and he's been great for me because we partnered now. The technology aspect of the festival. So I adore and think he's maybe one of the most talented, smartest innovators coming out.
Very cool. Okay, so for those people who don't know you, if you could just give us a brief description of maybe what you're known for and what you do.
My name is, like I said, Mandy Ward, and I'm probably most known for two things. I used to produce social political documentaries. A lot of them did the festival circuit, and then I left and started a film festival called First Time Fest, which was last year, March 1st through the 4th, and it was a really different model. It's a contest, actually, in disguise of a festival, because we give theatrical distribution and international sales representation as the prize, which is one of the first festivals to do that ever.
Wow.
So
that's pretty cool. So so last year was the first year, and you're prepping for year 2 now.
We just, as of Monday, which was September 30th, we had our call for entries internationally, and we've already got quite a lot more submissions this year than we did last year, being our first year. So we're excited.
Very cool. Are you plugged into Without a Box?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. So people can get IMDb credits for submissions and all that sort of stuff.
All of that.
Very cool.
So
tell us a little bit more about the project. It's called the First Time Fest. The name assumes a bit. Could you tell us about that?
Sure. Again, it's a contest, really, at the end of the day. But what it is, it's a platform for new, first-time theatrical filmmakers. Maybe not new. A lot of our people are, directors maybe that have switched over from editors. We like to call them switch hitters. But the basics of it is to submit to First Time Fest, you have to be a first-time director, producer, editor, screenwriter, or composer.
Interesting.
So it's a little different. It's not all focused on directors. For example, one of our submissions last year actually just went theatrical today from the festival. Zeitgeist Films picked it up, called Uprising. It had a first-time director, but it had a seasoned team. It had Spike Lee's producers from Inside Man. Things like that. It really had a seasoned team. So we definitely are not a student film festival necessarily. We take student submissions, obviously, but we're more catered to people that have been in the industry along and have just chosen to make their first film in one of those categories. Last year's winner, Sal, which was an Argentinian-Chilean mix, it basically was $1.5 million in a beautiful, it was a new Western, about mistaken identity. So really fun, interesting films.
Yeah, very cool. So you're not looking for just anyone who's made their first film necessarily, but it's more, like you said, catered towards industry folks who are looking to kind of move into that position.
Both. I mean, it's definitely last year we tended to get, in the festival, we got a lot of people that it was their directorial debut.
Okay.
And they had been doing shorts, commercials, other things like that. Really, it's about the idea and the concept and how well executed it is. Obviously, we, with our prize of theatrical distribution and international sales, we have to have a certain quality to put it up in theaters. But still, I've seen amazing student films or graduate student films that actually came through the festival. And, so it's not just, seasoned team necessarily, but, it tends to go that way more.
Okay, you just said something that kind of interested me, because I know that, when I was younger, I did a bunch of just really crap stuff that was fun to do, right? And now I'm trying to make better stuff. And so you said, you get student submissions, and you sort of qualified that there was a difference. What is that main difference that you see then? Is it budgetary constraints, or what's the difference that you're seeing?
I don't agree with that at all, because I've seen some really amazing low budget stuff done, but I think what happens is these big ideas, people have bigger ideas than what their budget allows.
Okay.
So they have this idea and they can't get it out of their head when they really should have maybe made a concept for that particular budget. And that comes with experience, that you learn that you have to do that, or it's not going to be what's in your head. Right. So I really see that. I also, it's really hard because the resources in New York are everywhere, and I think that if students reached out more for advice, which is something, we advise, like coming to the festival, because again, our festival is intimate. It takes place in one hub called Neue House. It's a new private members club, and all week, all 5 days, we have all of our major producers, like people that have produced Pan's Labyrinth. Wow. We have Jonathan Gray, who's producing Blue Caprice out right now. We have wonderful people around who are there for the festival to really give free advice and to maybe not read something, but they're definitely ready to look at an iPad full of conceptual ideas and maybe offer, a platform for that.
So it's open. It's not open to the public necessarily, but you can pay to get a.
It's not open to the public. We keep it really, really intimate. It was a very big concept for us, because I was doing the festival circuit for so long, and just going to these events and not seeing the same people at every party, and not quite knowing who people were, and getting a lot of random cards on one night. So our festival is about seeing the same people, knowing their importance, who they are, introducing yourselves, being in close confined quarters. Our panels last year are like 15 people at a time, with straight up in front sitting with the panelists. So they can engage. And, a lot of those actual filmmakers are working with some of those producers now on their next projects. Yeah. So it's really about the intimacy, and I think that's important. It's available to young filmmakers for that specific reason. So
that intimacy sounds like something that someone like me would want. So if someone didn't have a film that was available or ready to go to that, is there an opportunity for them to go and be a part of that, or is it intended to be just the filmmakers who are submitting?
No, it's for everyone, really. It's for, of course, there is, we give student discounts. Okay. So there is a price. But again, I encourage, filmmakers to come, especially graduate and in their senior year and such, because these people definitely know the industry and the independent industry. And, we're a New York Film Festival right now. So in New York, that's important to know. We're definitely not studio-esque, but I think people at that level aren't there anyway. So
yeah. So now this is your first festival that you ran. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Have you done any festival stuff behind the scenes before?
I had never, producing a film is actually, I think, just as hard as producing this festival. This festival might be a little hard because it's, I don't know, you're producing each day of a film, so it's like a series of events almost. This is definitely more people to manage, because at one point we had 80 volunteers. And so managing that is a little different, but really they're similar. They fit together somehow, this specific festival with my producing. I'm about to produce a horror film, and actually a lot of the people that were at the festival, I still utilize the people that were at the festival. It's interesting. So, it's a great tool to have, but.
Very cool. So what are the things that you're doing right now? You said you're producing a horror film and you're working on the festival. What does like a day in the life of Mandy Ward look like now?
I can tell you what my day was today.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I had to go to my press agent's office to talk about, we have to do a lot of PR for the festival, obviously, for people to submit. So we have a bunch of press releases coming out. My partner is Tony Bennett's daughter. So one of our Kickstarter prizes, he has offered to do a voice message for somebody if they put in our Kickstarter ask, which is $50,000. So that's something that's like a little newsworthy. So, you discuss that. Then I'm shooting a commercial. I'm helping put together a commercial. So we're going to be shooting like the 12th. So I had that meeting, and then I'm being brought on to a Greek feature film. So I had to meet with the director. He actually is a first-time director, and he just did a short. So we're screening his short while he raises money for the rest. And then I went to a panel discussion about the Irish consulate and tax breaks in Ireland with U.S. And then I came home to talk to you. Wow,
that's great. I'm very glad I got you in the middle of all that then.
Yeah, like I was like, you might as well go all out. But inspiring day, it's so nice because each project gives you, you separate them very clearly, but each project gives you energy. And then the utilization of the festival, the access I have as a producer through the festival to the people I know from the publicity we got last year, it really helps me as a producer on a different tier. So it's all been great.
I found what you said there just interesting. You said each project gives you energy. So you're producing these projects. Do you find that the producing side of it is what you really enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's what I'm good at. That's like really what my talent is putting the right team together. And maybe that's why the festival was a little easy. I know a lot of people in New York. I happen to just I go out a lot. I'm a very social person, and I was connected with the right people by the old job that I had. Just his accessibility. He had grown up in New York, a mutual fun baby, and kind of known everyone. And so he introduced me to the right people, which has been incredibly helpful. And, that was very lucky on my part coming from Georgia. So, because I really didn't know anyone when I got here, but I got here 11 years ago. So that's
Well, if you don't mind, let's talk about that a little bit, because sure. I'm interested, because I'm still growing in my producing. I've done shorts and other things, but what have you found to be the way that you are able to put yourself in a situation where projects come to you? I mean, because at some point you start from nothing, right? And then you build a portfolio, and then people know you. What was sort of your path into producing?
My path, which is not, it's not really quite the norm as we see it. But I'll tell you, I can tell you two pieces. So I'll tell you my path, and then I'll tell you what I encourage,
sure,
or what I help other filmmakers by getting into the path. So my path was, I moved to New York straight from graduation at Savannah College of Art and Design, which, I met Joe. And so I moved here, stayed in a hostel, knew no one, didn't realize it had just been right after 9/11. So the vibe in the city and everything was just coming back when I got here. So I got here in like November of the next year, but still the job market was kind of bad. But anyway, 2 years kind of doing installation. I used to produce off-Broadway theater and stuff like that, of just like looking online and looking for things, using those tools that we hear about, the Craigslist when it came out and stuff like that. And then finally there was this company called Radioactive Film, which is a huge commercial production company in Kiev. And they were opening their offices here, and they really didn't, they didn't have an overabundance amount of money, but they needed somebody that was a jack of all trades to come in and run the business, somebody that could edit, design, I hadn't produced anything yet, but in college. So, but I knew how to, I just hadn't had to apply it yet.
How did you get connected with them then?
Online, like I applied.
Just randomly?
Mandy.com, to be honest, if I remember correctly, ironically. And I went in and met with, I was the first interview that they had, and then they interviewed like, I think 65 people, and I got it. Just we fit, our personalities fit. You have to really practice interviewing. I think interviewing is like, my manager always says, like, if I can get you in a room, I know you have the job. And that is something to really be aware of. I took acting classes in film school. I had that degree because I knew that was going to be an asset at some point, whether I wanted to direct, produce, or, interview. I mean, it's just to get over that nervousness and be aware of your surroundings is important. So that's how, and then I worked there for 6 years and really grew with the company. And, I was the only producer there in New York, and I really all hands on deck. I was doing a lot of post-production supervision. You have to know your technical aspects. The more you know, the more you immerse yourself, the better. So that was my path. For instance, the people that work for me now, what I encourage, I location manage as well, which I love. And location managing, first of all, introduces you to people in the city, in any city you're at, because the people that you're going to be shooting at the locations, first of all, normally own the locations and they have money. So, right now I have my assistants working with me on set on some locations, and then I come in and scout, because scouting is something I love, and I love to find locations for film. I think it's a huge part of filmmaking, and people notice it actually when you do a good job. And then my assistants take over for me. They get to know the process, they get to know the people, and then also you can see their work ethic. Filmmaking is work ethic. We work 12-hour days on set, like at minimum 14, usually 15 a lot in independent land. You have to have a certain type of personality, and I think when people see you do a good job at that, they will hire you again. So what I encourage that, because on set you meet people, then you get to know people, and then you're like, well, I want to produce, and then they hire you as an assistant or associate producer. They know your work ethic. So getting in the grit, like getting in the dirt of it, is really important for anything. And that's what I encourage the people that I take under my wing to do. And a matter of fact, I have 3 old assistants who are absolutely working in film. And just now today, one of the first people I taught how to location manage, he's about to produce his first short. So, you see the progression, and that's just really what I encourage people to do is, if they want to produce, you better know how to location manage as well. And it's an untapped talent, and it's not a talent that people teach a lot of, but yeah, so I have an interesting method of getting my people in the film industry, and it's worked thus far, and I love to do it. So
yeah, I hadn't heard that before of going in through location managing. Do you think that's common, or is that sort of just your little side?
That's my little. I think that I think if you're better at costumes, go in through costumes. I know a costume assistant who I first hired, then she went on to do some really good features, and now she wants to direct her first short, and she knows a lot of people that are willing to help her with that, because they know that she knows the process. And I think it's about knowing the process. That you're up against time, money, all of that. I mean, that's the most important part, and making the director happy. So I think once people see you in action and know, they completely are going to trust you and work with you again.
And then you said you're working with these people, and eventually maybe you see their work ethic and you hire them as an assistant or something like that, and they just state to you that they're interested in producing. Yes,
and you really have to see their producing is hard, and sometimes you're up for days when you get in the bulk of it. And I think that, for instance, my assistant now, he's coming on to this horror film with me as an associate producer. I'm bringing him on because I trust him. We work well together. He listens, but yeah, gives good advice. I welcome people to give their creative opinion. And I think that's important for us as mentors, us as producers, to encourage that, so that young people and new producers have a voice and feel that they can be a part of something. And I think that gives them confidence, which then leads to, feeling better about making choices. So
yeah. Part of the reason I started Producers Pal is because I'm interested in, because there's a lot of people coming up through the ranks right now with the availability of filmmaking today. There's a lot of people who are interested in filmmaking and would consider themselves a filmmaker and that sort of thing. And my take is that that's great, but you need to mature in your journey as a filmmaker. And my take on it is that producing is filmmaking, as opposed to like, oh, I'm a director or I'm a filmmaker. It's like, no, producing is the filmmaking aspect of it. Like, that's
producers accept the Academy Award.
Fair enough. So
it's the heart of the film.
Yeah, yeah. So but yet producing is still one of those sort of undefinable qualities of the filmmaking process. So when you talk about producing a horror film, what does that entail for you?
Well, basically that entails, again, content. I'm picky about my content. I don't do anything, nor can anybody talk me into anything that I'm not connected to, because I know if I go into a 7-year journey from development of script to distribution, I know that, sometimes it can be that long. Luckily, a horror film is a little easier because there's such an audience for it. But, if you're not connected to that, you're like, I'm not going to do a good job. So I know that about myself. But my job is really to take what is on the page and to grab a director that has the same vision as the writer, and those two teams together to really understand, be able to vocally understand what they want. Then with that, my job is to marry everybody. So basically, I go out and pick the right costume designer, the right production designer, the right sound designer, those people that I know, and bring them to the table, or a couple of those people that bring to the table that have the ambiance and elegance and all of the stuff that the director and writers want. So it's really, think of it as a circle, and you're the person in the middle that's just really, you're the one everybody speaks to. The director and writer don't need to speak to these people all the time. It's really to take the weight off of them so they can concentrate on really the creative process of that, and to be able to be the workhorse and make sure everybody's on their jobs, staying in budget, obviously.
Yeah, and there's all these different aspects of producing, which is where you bring on your associate producer, and then you have your executive producer sometimes, and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Executive producer obviously comes on quite early. There are so many different types. The one that I'm dealing with now is not necessarily hands on deck. He's not a stressy producer, but he wants to learn the process of it. So he's there to see. He just wanted to change careers, and has the money to do so. So there's just so many different types, and I think one of the biggest things with the producer is your personality. You at this tier in my life now, if you're Scott Rudin, whatever, it seems you can do what you want, but this tier in my life, you have to be accepting of all different types of personalities. You're a babysitter a lot of the time for everybody. You're a psychiatrist on set. You've got to figure out how to make everybody keep moving forward, but yet be happy. Yeah.
And you talked about, you don't want to get into a project that's going to take 7 years of your life if you're not interested in it. Yeah. So what is, with a 7 to 10 year or sometimes more iteration cycle per project, how do you create, income for yourself in between? Are you doing lots of other stuff? Is that where the location managing comes in?
Yes, it definitely comes in there. It's a big part of it. Mm-hmm. And the festival, obviously, I started the festival in 2008, around when the economy crashed. And as we know, that was set back so many people, because I realized I needed something stable, especially in at this age, like now it's getting easier, obviously, after the success of the festival. But, before you have that success, just creating a stabilization of something that would always, no matter if the economy would fail or not, everybody goes to see movies. Festivals usually thrive during that time. So I created that for that purpose, definitely, to have always a resource for that. But I also, I do one-off jobs of producing. I do shorts, but really, at the end of the day, I think, yeah, it's you have to have more than one trait. I think it's the end all be all, especially coming up. If you don't know how to line produce and produce, if you don't know how to script supervise and produce, if you don't know how to locations and produce, you really, no matter what, need to take the time to learn another area. Because a lot of these projects that come in that want to hire somebody, say they're at minimal budget, and everybody's always just for starting out. If you're not a person that can do two jobs because they only want to pay that, or they need that specific role filled like that, then they're going to go to somebody else. So it's weeding out, it's weeding out other people. It's like the more you have in your basket, the more you're going to get hired and keep working.
Very cool. Yeah, so that's important to have those sort of, not necessarily fallback traits, but things that can work together.
Super important.
Yeah.
I mean, writers, producers, they go to TV stuff. They don't have one without the other now, honestly, for TV shows and such, especially with the reality thing. I mean, I don't do reality, nor I don't think I would. I've been asked to be in some reality shows, but it's not for me necessarily. But I get it. I get that, with that good money in reality TV, but you have to be able to write and write and be on set, so they do ask for that.
So what is next for you then? You're doing producing, you've got the film festival. What's your thoughts for the future?
So I have a big project. So my future, actually in New York, I partnered with a real estate investor who we're putting a sound stage and studio up at the Gowanus Canal. And what it's going to be, two 65,000 square foot sound stages and a building called the Barn, basically where it's a curated workspace of people that we bring in that we think need to be around each other in the offices that can inspire each other. And then with that said, each project that comes into the studio, whether they need to just use it for studio space or whether they're looking for financing, we're going to become, if we like that script, we're going to become part investors. So it's a new model that we're kind of creating. I think Shreveport uses it a lot, but really, New York doesn't have anything like that. And, we want people to be able to make the films at with the quality that they want to make, even if they don't have the money. So, per project basis, we'll decide whether we want to invest or give even the studio for free or even ourselves put money in it to keep the project going, So we're not just a soundstage, we're investors in a soundstage. So that will launch in April of next year. So
it's going to go handily in time with the festival.
Yep.
That's convenient. Yeah.
Why not utilize the press?
Yeah.
In the festival.
You think it's smart. Yeah, it's smart. Very cool. Okay, so Mandy, thank you so much for coming on. I want to just begin to wrap up a little bit more.
Sure.
And just, I kind of want to get some advice here. So you've no doubt received advice over the years in your filmmaking process. You have a festival that you run. What is your best piece of advice that you have for filmmakers? I
think the simplest that I could say that somebody told me once was know who's making the films that are out, know the names of these people. You're going to walk into a meeting and people are going to be like, this movie out with, who's Jason Blum? Immediately you need to know that. Paranormal Activity, that because he's a model that people are always going to talk about with that film. And now, of course, he's done The Reader, Insidious, a laundry list of 45 people know what he's doing. He's a producer. Slash just did his first film, Nothing Left to Fear. Know your films. Know the people. And the world's going to become smaller and easier to use because you're going to see the same names over and over and over and over. And so you're going to know the right people to meet, where to meet them, and always to say something if you do. And I think that is such a simple thing that we can do at home without money, IMDb Pro, and to follow films as much as you can. I watch sometimes on Saturdays 8 movies a day, you know? Just you have to immerse yourself in it because you have to keep up because you know somebody else is doing that.
Yeah.
So free.
So IMDb Pro, and you just sit there and just browse new and upcoming stuff?
You know what? You see a trailer that looks like something and you go to, Paranormal Activity 4 or whatever, and you really look and say, wow, that movie was made, or one's interesting because it was made for nothing, like $8,000 or something, and it made $30 million or something like that. You need to know that as a producer going in, and again, this is a producers panel, and I think that is specifically for people that want to be producers. Yeah. We throw numbers and names around in conversation at my level now, like every day. It's like rapid fire, and if you can't keep up with that, somebody's going to notice.
Yeah,
somebody's going to notice, and it only benefits you.
Okay. So, what is your favorite film or TV show, or even a YouTube channel, if you had to pick?
I have my favorite film because it had a very special place in my heart. Requiem for a Dream was my favorite film, and it's actually what got me into filmmaking. Obviously, we honored Darren Aronofsky. Martin Scorsese gave Darren Aronofsky Award for Excellence at our festival this first year. He got me into filmmaking. I love his filmmaking, and it was also a time when the Kronos Quartet, which scored the entire piece, that had never been done. I think a lot of the editing at the time, and that film is just special to me, so it stays at number one. I'm not sure I'll ever change with that. Obviously, I have other favorites, but that's I could say that's my inspirational film for me. I'm really into Orange is the New Black right now, so I binge watched it all in 2 days.
Well, you already just kind of mentioned Orange is the New Black, but I'm curious, do you have an upcoming film or TV series or something that you're interested that we should keep an eye out for?
Well, yeah, I have a lot. I'm excited actually about seeing Kill Your Darlings. So, also, two of the producers, Christine Vachon at Killer Films and Rose Ganguza, were part of our festival. And then Jack Houston is, we have the Houston Award at the festival because of his grandfather, John Houston. So he's and that film to me, this thriller with Daniel Radcliffe, I'm excited to see where it goes. It gets released October 16th. It looks spectacular. It has some Oscar buzz around it, but yet it's still truly independent. And I like that mix. So I'm keeping my eye out for that one.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, and lastly, Mandy, where is the best place we can go to find out more about you and First Time Film Festival?
Well, our website is www.firsttimefest.com. I'm Mandy Ward on Facebook, and I'm Judo Gambler on Twitter.
What is that for? What is Judo Gambler?
Not tell you that.
Okay. I saw the winky smiley face in the email, so yeah.
No, it's a funny story for another time.
All right. Well, if you guys meet Mandy at a festival, go ahead and just ask her about Judo Gambler. It's a good story. Okay. Well, Mandy, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking to you, and if you need anything else, let me know.
Absolutely. This episode is brought to you by Indie Film Finance Guide. Learn more at producerspal.com/finance guide. To learn more about this episode, go to producerspal.com/Mandy Ward.